Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday to you. Welcome to the first of two streams for today. On Sunday, we're starting off here on Farm Sim 19, and then we'll go do our flying tour of Rio de Janeiro about maybe 15-20 minutes after we wrap this up. Now today, what we're going to do is I have a contract that I started off stream some time ago and totally forgot about it. So we're gonna, and it's harvesting potatoes. So we are over here. So we're gonna hop in here and continue on with that. And just kind of have a nice relaxing morning. We're just going to harvest potatoes. Try to get as much done as we can. So we'll do this for about an hour. We'll load it up as much as we can, and then we'll take it up to the point that the contract stipulates. Oops. So, yeah, we're just going to go do this, and that's something different. Now, I had thought, quite honestly, that I had done about half of this field, and then when I looked at the contract, it said we were only 7% done, and I was like, ooh. I kind of neglected this contract. I should have been coming in and just finishing it up off stream, but my biggest concern was that the time would have passed so much. I guess if I break it up into chunks, it would be okay, but anyway, we're just gonna work on this a bit for today. Hopefully everybody's doing well. I reckon it's going to be a quiet chat session. Whatever reasons, it's okay. It happens. Really looking forward to sharing or doing the flight down there to Rio a little bit later. This little bit right here. So what I kind of did was I went all the way to this point, and my thought process was I would just kind of get along through here first, or just try to cut through this. And as a matter of fact, I think I'm just going to go right through here, just so that we kind of have a working point, like a destination, so to speak. With cutting this field up into bits, I guess. Make it a little bit easier to work with. It doesn't take much to get this thing loaded up, like full. And certainly on a field like this size, it's... There we go, see? And then getting it lined up. To dump it into the truck there. Yeah, we'll go to about 7:30 or so. It doesn't take much for this truck to be loaded up either. I took this contract because it is a pretty good size contract. The only thing is it's something I think if you had more people with you on the farm, like if you had some friends, you could have one person harvesting, you could have one person running the truck back and forth, so that way, because it is a bit much to do on my own to take the load up the truck, drive it to the destination, or the place where the contract says to take it, and then we take it to or drop that off, then come back, park the truck, hop back in here. So yeah, it's I want to just chip away at it. I think for a contract like this, it's easier to break it up into sections. That way you have a goal that you can complete. Now, I could certainly do this all day, but I think I would almost fall asleep after a while because it is a bit monotonous. So, anyway. I'm just gonna work on this. We'll probably make 2 runs, at least, maybe 3 to the area where we could, of course, look at what the contract states as far as. Now, the crazy thing is on this, there seems to be sometimes there's potatoes that are kind of missed, like you see them sitting here. It's like this thing's got like a vacuum. I try to make sure we get all that as well, as much as possible. I would probably have to come back through and clean it up again. Go around, make sure we got all the potatoes for the contract. That's weird. This one went a little bit farther, which is fine. You know, this harvester, it's got only a very small front end there to harvest potatoes, so it's kind of hard to keep it lined up and get the most. Because it's a built-in head, I think. So it's not like we could get a wider. I don't think there's anything wider as far as. Now we could look in the mod section to see if there's another potato harvester that is larger. Now this one was, I borrowed this from the contractor, or the person who gave me the contract, or whatever. But I wonder if there's a larger one. Now if my farm was far more successful right now, and I had the means, if there was one and I could buy it, then but it would be stored, you know, I wouldn't be using it. But so then there's an additional cost right there that I would incur for vehicle maintenance and all that. You know, so it's not the best option, but yeah, I guess if I had a far more successful farm and had the means to deal with all that, I would do it. And then that way I could just do contracts whenever, and I'd have the proper equipment already available. Yeah, this is a bit slow going because that's as wide as it goes. You know, it goes through, that cuts it down, and then that basically funnels the potatoes into here. This weird conveyor system that doesn't exactly make much sense how it works or how it's set up. Somehow it works, so what do I know? Last little bits here, and then we'll go downhill. Hello, Mick. How are you? Happy to see you here, good sir. You haven't missed much. We're harvesting potatoes today on a contract, so just plugging away at it. Trying to whittle this field down as best as we can before we take the stuff up to the next or to the location that the contractor or the person who owns the field wants it at the farm uphill, which I think, let's take a look here. Was going to save. Oh, the ranch, not the farm, the ranch. So we are here. Oops. Over here on field 4. So we got to take this and go up through here and then drop it off right there. So that's where our, oops. Yep, so we hit the higher button. Let's see how close we are to taking this load up the hill there. I reckon one more pass and then we should be full. Now the only problem is when I'm streaming this, there's no autopilot there. I can just kind of sit back and let the controls, you know, I don't have to have hands on the controls the entire time. And I can just drink my coffee and all that. That's okay. I think there was some SpaceX stuff going on last night, Mick. I don't know if it was another Starlink mission or there was something going on. I remember seeing on YouTube there was something happening where they had, you know, people were waiting for launch or something to do with one of the missions that may be already up there or something. I don't know what it was. Somebody else is sitting there watching too and hasn't said anything. Wonder who that might be. Don't be scared. Say hello. It's all right. Don't be shy. Nick won't bite, I promise. Unless you ask him to. Oh, that's what it, okay, it was Starlink. That's what I thought. I saw it the thing on the premiere, like everybody was waiting, you know, or they were going to go live at some point. So, well, that's cool. This is where we're gonna have to take the load up the hill. Oops. Maybe let's park this right here for a second, and we'll go have a look how much we've got in. Oh, 79%. Oh. Okay. Yeah, I think I saw the announcement like not long after Pulse's stream got done last night. And I didn't even think nothing of it after that. Going to be sending a spacecraft to the moon soon for a trial run. I think they're putting Snoopy in for the ride. That wouldn't surprise me, but yeah, I know. I've heard that Elon Musk, that's one of the things that they're working on, and then eventually they want to do the Mars mission, which I think is absolutely fantastic. You know, I think he's got the people to do it. Now the Starship or whatever it's called that they have been testing and have had some bad luck with. I know basically he said that that's costing him money, like they're not making any money because it's not a system that is working yet. So I don't know, like I think he's got the people that want to make all this happen, but I think the larger issue is that there's a lot of unknowns that they probably did not even foresee, you know, a lot of issues and whatnot that they couldn't have taken into account yet. So I hope they don't give up, because I think it's it's certainly a worthwhile project to do. But it's just, I know it seems like they've got a lot of issues to tackle, and hopefully they can do it. I think it would be absolutely phenomenal if they could go back to the moon. You know, a lot of people have always asked, why haven't we gone back? And, you know, part of it is, it's the cost. You know, I think if we try to do the Apollo missions today, the cost would be absolutely enormous, and nobody would want to see that sort of project take place, when people are struggling and whatnot. So the fact that Elon Musk is willing to give it a go, I think good for him that he has that vision. Hopefully they see it through. And again, I think something like that's important to get people interested in science and technology again. Like I still think to this day, the Apollo program got a lot of people to get like engineering degrees, like whether electrical or mechanical engineering. That was a real big boom, I think, and that was a very lucrative field, and I think it still is. But a lot of people I can't be bothered because all the math and everything involved, and they give up on it. But I think if you could say that you were part of something amazing in human history, I think that is the true reward out of all that. To say, yep, I was part of that mission, that we put people back on the moon, we sent people to Mars, all that stuff. Let's see where we're at now. I think we're close enough that we can take this up there. It'll be a worthwhile trip. Oh yeah, 99%. That will do. So yeah, I think that's a big motivator, but a lot of people just don't want to do that. And if you're young enough and you can say you were part of something like that, I think and nobody could ever take that away from you. What do I know? That's why I wish I had done better in math. Worked harder at it, because the opportunities, once you are knowledgeable in math like that, there's way more. You could do a lot. Matter of fact, one of my instructors who taught math at the community college, he was an electrical engineer for, I think for the power company here in New York. So, it should be right here. And once he retired, he worked there at the community college part-time teaching math. Because he has like a huge math background. Hello, Amela, how are you? There's multiple things that you can do with that degree. But again, it's all up to people to want to work at it, do something with it. All right. That will be. I think we'll get one more bit done, and then we'll call it a day around the farm. I'm good. Yeah, things are fine. Not perfect, they're fine. Along the side here. Save. I'm going to get me some coffee real quick. I shouldn't say, not like ETS driving a truck, no. Well, I've never played ETS, so I can't say for sure, but yeah, it's, I don't have the I turned off the numpty, traffic, so I don't have to worry about idiots running into me. Or I think that's the biggest problem you guys have more often than not is the AI traffic just trying to do you wrong on the road. Yeah, that's one thing I always try to do on farms. That's the first thing I do, I think, amongst many things, is turn off the traffic so I can just zip around and get places without worrying about somebody holding me up or running into my vehicle or whatever, just all kinds of drama. So, yeah, a lot less to worry about there. So we'll make a few more passes. We'll get that thing loaded up. I think it was 3, maybe 4 passes. I forget, but we'll get that loaded up, and we'll make one more run, and we'll go flying. So yeah, really excited about the flight today in Rio. It should be a lot of fun. But one of the things I noticed yesterday, which is, it's a good thing that this is happening, the website Microsoft add-on, or Microsoft Flight Simulator add-ons, they are finally, after 4 months, putting out now a list of aircraft, or like they're trying to keep the Xbox community updated on what's happening with Flight Simulator, which it's like finally somebody's taking the Xbox community a little more seriously now, which is good that finally we're getting some reasonable information, because it's hard to know when something is when something is talked about coming out. We never know, like, is it, unless the developer specifically says this is going to be a release on Xbox and PC at the same time. We never know when we're going to get it. So oh, well, thank you, Mick. Yeah, it was fun, although we had the little hiccup there in the Death Valley with the F-15, but it's fine. It was good. A good laugh. But we got it done, and then went to Nellis there, and I almost messed up that landing. I think one of the things that is good that we were flying those fighter planes, because it's easy to kind of forget the the way that a plane like the F-15, how it lands and everything, like trying to get the speeds correct on the approach and everything. I seem to either underestimate or overestimate. I guess it's just a matter of knowing how to work the plane and fly it correctly and all that stuff. I'm just going to go ahead and cut right through here. I'm just going to make this line right through here. I'm going to back it up and right through here. Just kind of make a yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed flighting yesterday, and I was really happy that we did a little bit better with the Spitfire landing. That certainly went a lot better than before. Side of there. That's all right. We'll go on this way. Yeah. So now that I kind of know, like the better sort of landing speed and when and I think 80 knots is still a bit much, it feels like, so I don't really know. Just start right over here, back up. We'll just work on this little section up here. Yeah, I kind of feel like that was a bit. It was still like we were over torqued when we land, which is what even taking off. That's why the plane kind of shoots off to one side when you're on your takeoff and you go full throttle, and the plane just has this tendency to want to go crazy. So that's why I think we can take off and land on non-grass fields now, or like concrete or asphalt or whatever. But we don't need to necessarily land on grass. It's more of the getting the speeds right, and having a long enough runway, I think, to kind of just let that speed bleed off naturally, and then it just kind of takes care of itself, and the landing should go a lot better. So now that I have like a target sort of thing, I think that makes it easier to deal with. Yeah, and I didn't even think about that either, because I'm like, why is this just going bananas? Like, it's just wanting to go, like its own direction while we were still on the runway, gaining speed so we could take off. And then when I watched a video, and I forget who it was that I watched, but when whoever did that video kind of explained it, I'm like, okay, now that makes sense of why this is happening. So yeah, that explanation helped out immensely. And then also with the landing, and I'm like, okay, that's why I keep screwing this up. Because we're used to coming in at a higher speed, in the jetliners, and that kind of messes us up, when you're going from different, from all the different planes. So yeah, that was I'm glad that worked out better as well, though it seemed like even a slight increase at one point, it kind of threw the plane off again, and it was starting to kind of want to, go off to the right. So, and I noticed that last night too, or that last flight when we landed, the F-15 was the same way, but I think that was more down to the fact that I came in way too fast still. I should have kind of, hovered over the, I should have hovered over the runway a bit more first, and then we could have, I think we would have had a much smoother landing for the F-15, but it's all a learning experience, I think. We're learning as time goes on, and bit by bit. So that was a lot of fun. What I may just try to do is get this whole little strip that we have cleaned up as much as possible. We'll just take that up there because it's 7:17 now. So yeah, we're just going to finish up this little section that I created. Load that up, and we'll take it up to the ranch. The Dude Ranch. I think it'll be a good place to stop. I'm gonna have to come in at some point and work on this and get this all knocked out. It's just very tedious, monotonous sort of stuff. Oops. Uh-oh. Oops, daisy. And I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. I was just thinking to myself that even with the I think even if I had a controller, not a controller, but like the stick and the throttle and everything, I don't know that I would be able to do it much better. Possibly, instead of using the Xbox controller for my flying. Come on, vacuum. So I think that's the part that I struggle with the most, is getting that sort of stuff right, the throttles and all that. Now, of course, with the jetliners, generally you just go full whack, and as Joe would say, and and then the systems kind of take over, especially the jetliners that have like the auto throttle and all that. It just takes care of itself once you're up in the air. Yeah, I don't really know what else. It's just a lot of trial and error, I guess, and trying to figure out what works and try to improve upon that whenever possible, which sometimes is easier said than done. But one of the things I think I was telling the folks that were part of the raid on Twitch a few days ago, I get the sense that and maybe this is more so on the Xbox side than anything else, but maybe it's just sim wide. I don't know, but it seems that a lot of people seem to think that if they buy a particular aircraft, that they're going to understand that aircraft right off the bat. Like if you go back to the first time I did this stream, I flew, and just for kicks, we took off. I'm like, oh, we got a 747. Let's go to San Francisco and take off, and it went horribly wrong. It was fun, it was all been fun, but it shows that you can't expect that you are going to know how the whole thing works. And I think people think that, oh, well, I've been playing Microsoft Flight Simulator for some time, so I should know, I know how all this thing works. So, if you apply the same principles, and sometimes that works, applying some of the same lessons does help out. But I think you kind of miss every aircraft is a bit different, behaves a bit differently than any other aircraft. So I wonder if that's why you have a lot of people who put these terrible reviews, that they think that they can get in and everything's going to work, or well, not so much work, that they're going to be able to fly it no problem, and when it's a bit more of a handful, they just get frustrated and say, oh, well, this plane's broken, or I want my money back, and this, that, and the other. I think that's why you don't get a really fair, honest, balanced sort of idea of what's happening with the plane, and like, is it really down to user error, or is there something really wrong with the plane? this zap real quick. And I think part of that too is when there's no communication from the developer about what's happening, that they understand that there's an issue and that they're working on it, then that's why I think people just kind of like, well, obviously this person doesn't care enough to try to fix the product. Yeah. But I think also people get, I don't want to say lazy, but you know, you get locked in on one plane and you just like, I'm going to only fly this. Well, you're missing out on a lot of other stuff. But yeah, and I think that's one of the other issues, Mick, and that's a very valid point. I struggled with it at first because, you know, I didn't understand that there are, like I don't know about necessarily rules, but that there's a way the system will engage at a certain point. But, you know, without knowing that as a sim, for, you know, like, you know, understanding the concept of when to engage the autopilot, that, you know, a lot of that stuff doesn't happen until, you know, once you're off the ground and you're you know, when I've been watching videos of real world pilots, they tend to, it's like they wait until like they hand flight the departure out, I guess, and then once they've gotten clearance, or, you know, they're at a certain point in the departure, that's when they engage the autopilot and all that. Now I don't know if that's because there's been problems in the past with autopilot systems and the notion of, you know, I think like what happened with the 737, that the you know, the system will not, that it makes a mistake and then doesn't correct it the right way. And so I think now the pilots are kind of like, well, I'd just rather do it myself until a certain point, and then once we're up in the air, then I'll feel more comfortable about engaging the system. You know, I think that's part of it too. But I mean I didn't realize it. It took a bit of trial and error on my part to figure out that, you know, certainly if you have a departure, you know, more so for the jetliners, that makes the autopilot system a bit easier to contend with, I think. But again, those are not things that most people who aren't pilots would have ever realized, you know. So it's all trial and error and, you know, trying to figure things out and hope that you get it right without looking like a fool. Because there's that, the information isn't there, like the knowledge library, I guess, in a way, hasn't really been developed, or nobody's sharing that information, I don't think, unless you spend a lot of times in the forums looking for very specific issues, you know, like the autopilot or whatever. Without looking for that very specifically, you know, you wouldn't, you'd just be at the mercy of trying it again and again and again until you finally figure it out. And sometimes that's okay, but other times it's like, man, I don't know what else to do. I think I've hit every button in the order that it was supposed to be hit. Yeah, and I agree with that, Nick. It should be. And I think that's something that they recognize now. And it shouldn't and also too, I don't think it should be something that the community should have to pay for. It should be something that's included in the base tutorials. You know, like you have a progression. You start off with the prop plane, obviously, and you learn all the basic flying skills, and then then you maybe go to like a regional jet, or something like the Cessna CJ4. You kind of progress naturally in your capabilities, not like a career mode necessarily, but that you can work your way towards understanding the systems a bit better, and what does what and when to utilize it. And the things like the change in the pressure of when you're looking at your altimeter readings. When do you engage all that? If we're doing it manually, but now, so we have to look. Those are all things we have to pay attention. But if you don't really know what to do, you wouldn't know that that's something you've got to be aware of past flight level 180. So yeah, those are all things. Now I think the jetliner tutorial, it explained a lot of that, but those people, you do that tutorial and then you're like, okay, I'm good, but you don't really I don't think you really recognize or understand the complexities of it, or maybe people, I don't know, it's hard to say, but anyway. Yeah, I don't know. There's got to be a better knowledge library somewhere, and it's hit and miss, because when I've looked for information on YouTube, for instance, some people you kind of get an answer right away, and other people it's like they don't really show how they've worked out the problems. What was their solution and why? How did they come to that? That's what I'm always curious about. Like, if you show like the step by step, I did this and this is what happened and this is the solution, or this is the fix, or I just happened to stumble upon the fix, before I just threw in the towel and said, screw it, I'm not gonna, But yeah, I agree, but I think part of that too is if Asobo and if they can't create it, or there's not a reasonable like, if they don't want to put the time in, which I can understand, it's so then if somebody in the community is willing to do it, that's great, but also they're not going to get compensated for their time creating that tutorial, and it does take time, because you gotta keep working at it until you perfect the this is what we do and all that, and when to do it, and it does take time to do all that. So I could understand that they would want to be compensated for their efforts, but then they that means they got to send it to Asobo/Microsoft for approval. Then they got to wait for it to be yeah. Well, and I think that that's where you have like the all. Well, even if you have the all thing on, like all the assists on, that doesn't really help you either, because you're not really learning how to when to engage the systems and when to make certain changes and all that. But yeah, like, I think if somebody in the community, like when they did the real world A320 pilot created a tutorial. That has to go through a review process, and then so that's another issue in and of itself. If somebody wants to utilize something like the marketplace to sell their knowledge, which is their right to do, they want to be compensated for their time creating something. I think that's where it takes longer, because it who knows when that would get released. The review process takes quite a long time, it seems, especially maybe more so on the Xbox side. I don't know. It just feels that way. I could be wrong. Yeah, there's certainly some challenges involved with it. How do you get the information to the to the sim to the simmer community, so that it helps them become better. How did I end up on the hill? That was, come on. I'm so used to. I think I took the wrong. Yep, I took the wrong road. That's alright, we're getting here. Like, boy, I don't remember it being that steep and that narrow. So yeah, there's got to be a better way, but then, kind of like when I first started, there was a lot of hints and everything, but then it felt like, alright, I feel like I can take over, but I didn't know how to tell the system that I was ready to take over. Like turning things off and all that, so that I could have more control. But yeah, there's a lot of things that should be hopefully get done better eventually. But it's hard to say when or if that's going to happen. But I think, over time, I have a feeling there's enough people who are actually, willing to share their knowledge, without, any sort of demanding some sort of compensation for that knowledge. And again, a lot of that's just in the forums, but the forums, it's so, for me, it's been kind of hit and miss. Like, there's times where I go in the forums and everybody's like, essentially, people are enjoying the sim. And then you have the people who, for whatever reasons, it's not working for them. And instead of just trying to figure it out or look for answers, I like the part of the forum is, what did you do in MSFS today? And it's supposed to be, I flew from here to here, and this is the plane I was in, and it was a lot of fun, and which is what I think that's the intent behind that part of the forum. But then you have some people who say, oh, well, I wasn't able to do anything, so I'm going to say that I didn't do anything because this isn't working. Well, okay. But why would you put that in? What did you do in Microsoft Flight Simulator today? It's almost like you're being negative for the sake of being negative. And I think now, A lot of the moderators just block a lot of that stuff because it's, you know, you're complaining in the wrong section, or you're just complaining to complain. So, all right, let's go back to our farm. So yeah, there we are. Let's go ahead and save that we got that stuff delivered. So yeah, we did it right about the right time. So yeah, we still gotta fertilize stuff. We'll do that another time, or I may just do it off stream, and then we'll just go ahead and harvest everything, and that way it's just set to go. I don't know. One of the things I'd like to do eventually, if I can get enough money together, is to buy a larger field like this and plant cotton, so that we have, you know, we're getting more bang for the buck, so to speak. You know, like even that, at least we'd have a little bit more field, and we get more for our money. But anyway, all right, I'm going to wrap this up here, and then let's say about 8 o'clock we'll go flying. Give me time to grab another bite to eat. I just had a bagel earlier, but have a little something to eat for breakfast, and wake up a little bit more, and then we'll go flying and all that. So I will see you all in about 20 minutes. Okay? Take care until then. Bye.